Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Seth Meyers, clinical psychologist. And in this video, I am going to continue my series on the psychopath, helping you understand the traits and the behaviors of a psychopathic individual, what it looks like, some of the things that they do, how they are similar to others, and how they are different from others. Now, another video that I've already done for you is on the overall psychopathic traits to give you a good introduction and explanation. So, in this video, I am going to focus on one particular area of the psychopath's life, and that is sex, the sex life of the psychopath. So, just to begin, although I've really done it in other videos, I'm just going to remind you about what psychopath really means. An individual who is psychopathic presents psychopathy, and psychopathy is a cluster of social, emotional, lifestyle, and antisocial behaviors and traits. It's a whole group of them, and the way to test for whether an individual presents mild, moderate, severe, or really no psychopathic traits is to use the psychopathy checklist revised. That's one very good measure. But I'm just going to dive right in and start talking about how the sex life looks for an individual who is psychopathic. The most important thing to understand when it comes to the psychopath and sex is that sex is used very differently than it is for someone who is not psychopathic. Now, a lot of times when you think about sex, most people will think about a way to feel sexually and physically connected to someone that they care about, that they have feelings for. In a close, really trusting relationship, sex will often be something that is a way to feel close to that person. And words may be exchanged during that sexual activity, like, I love you. And it is really meant to be not just a physical experience, but an emotional experience as well, a way to feel not just physically close, but emotionally close too. Right there is the biggest difference between someone who is a psychopath and someone who is not. So, an individual who is psychopathic uses sex, and think about that word that I just shared uses. It is used almost as a tool. There may be times because psychopathic individuals are human beings too and have sexual needs that an individual who is psychopathic will resort to sex because they have natural sexual urges like anyone else. But there won't be the same emotional or affective component to that sexual interaction. An individual who is psychopathic doesn't look to develop a relationship with someone and doesn't think about sex as a way of feeling close and trusting and emotionally intimate. It is seen as more of a transaction, a transaction. Research also shows, if you look at the sexual behavior of psychopathic individuals, that they are more promiscuous. They tend to have more sexual partners, and also they have shorter term relationships than people who are not psychopathic. So there is this promiscuous sexual conquest element to a lot of the sexual behaviors of psychopathic individuals. One thing that it's also important to talk about is when we talk about the sexuality of a psychopath, what turns the psychopath on? Well, the psychopath is motivated by control and power. So, if we think about what sexually gratifies a psychopath, a lot of times it's going to be sexual behaviors that allow for the psychopath to feel this sense of control and power over someone. And it can even border on sadistic, which means to get gratification from causing pain or hurt to someone in sexual behavior. So the sex may not be warm and intimate, but rather hard and tough and intense. And in worst case scenarios, the sex is exploitative and even abusive. One thing that's important to note when we also talk about the quality or the type of sex that psychopathic individuals have, a lot of times it can take on a level of a performance. So, again, because it's not about emotional attachment and emotionally connecting, in the mind of the psychopath, it becomes a performance. So, some people may report after having had a sexual relationship with the psychopath that it was some of the best sex that they've ever had. The psychopathic individual really tries to do the best they can to sexually impress the others. The psychopath does the best they can to sexually impress the other and bring the other to a level of intensity, a level of sexual intensity that they may not have experienced before. This is all a part of the performance, the conquest, and really getting a sense of leverage over this person that only they, the psychopathic individual, has the power to make the person feel that way. They can create this almost drug like impact for another person where the other person craves feeling again that level of sexual closeness and intenseness with the person. An additional point that I want to make about psychopathic individuals and their sex life is that because psychopathic individuals are about power and control and status, they are often motivated to seek sexual experiences with others who are in positions of power and control and high status themselves, as if it's a way to sort of collect trophies, to bed someone or have that conquest that they slept with someone who is so and so with a particular high level position, or maybe a celebrity or someone who has a lot of money. That these sexual pursuits are really seen as conquests. And this is meant often, these sexual conquests, the sexual behavior, as a means to boost the ego of the psychopath, so that the psychopath looks at all these people and they see this as proof and evidence of how special they are, that they can get anyone they want. They have a grandiose sense, not just of themselves, but of their sexual powers, of their ability to charm and seduce someone else. Another reason why psychopathic individuals may have more sex, more sexual exploits, more sexual encounters than another person who's not psychopathic is that this is perhaps a means to try to defend against a kind of underlying boredom. Now, in my other video on the overall psychopathic traits, I've talked about this, the subcortical arousal that psychopathic individuals may have. And research supports this, that some of the sexual behavior, the exploits, the chase of trying to get someone in bed and then getting them, that this may be an attempt to defend against that boredom that the psychopath is prone to. They need this sexual excitement of conquering someone else and in high numbers. This is what gratifies them. If you think about a long-term romantic relationship, a steady, trusting romantic relationship that spans decades, that kind of relationship would bore most psychopathic individuals. They need novel stimuli, they need new things to conquer because they get bored very easily. So these are some of the traits and the behaviors that relate to a psychopathic individual and their sexuality, their sex life. It's really important to remember that not all psychopathic individuals are exactly the same, and also that there is a spectrum even among those that present psychopathic traits. Someone may have psychopathic traits, but mild, moderate, or severe psychopathic traits. So I hope that this video has been helpful in shedding a little bit of light on the sexual behavior of the psychopath. And if you're interested in learning more, I will also put some notes associated with this video so that you can do a little bit more research. And there are always resources available that I will include as well.